You are watching a master at work.
Hello, hello, hello. Yes. Oh, the applause is too much. Thank you. You're too kind. My audience fans out there. Yes. Hello. How are you? Thank you. Jason Wallace, the restaurant scientist here. Hidden Figures, Behind the Numbers with the Restaurant Scientist. Here we take an in-depth look into the economic disparities of the food service and hospitality industry. I'd like to start by thanking my sponsors, Cornerstone Business Labs, Cornerstone Productions, and Cornerstone Media. Yes, without them, the funding of this show would not go on. So we always got to pay homage and respect to our supporters. Today's show, I am honored to have Chef Jacqueline Cholmondeley. Jackie, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Jason. The pleasure is mine.
So for my listeners out there, Jackie and I go back 30 plus years. She is also a Culinary Institute of America graduate like myself. Also one of the founding members of the Black Culinary Alliance that we started out as an alumni chapter first of the Culinary Institute of America and then spawned over into outside of the alumni of the CIA. And Jackie has been extremely instrumental in the development and the exposure of Black food service professionals. And what I have always considered, you've never, my audience has never heard me say this on the podcast, anybody cook better than me, Jackie. But I will always bow down. And Jackie was a mentor, was way ahead of many of us culinary wise back in the day. So she's the real deal. What's up, Chef?
Thank you, Jason. That was lovely. That was gracious and lovely.
It's true. It's true. Like, I mean, there's no reason why you should not be I know you're a modest, classy lady, but people really need to know who you are. So tell my audience a little bit about yourself, Jackie.
Well, I am from Guyana, the only English-speaking country in South America.
Okay.
And I came to the U.S. in 1983 to attend the Culinary Institute of America, which was sort of groundbreaking because this was the 80s. And again, many parents did not support their Black children in going into food service. Mm-hmm. But it's what I wanted to do. And my mother was perfectly fine with it.
Okay.
I graduated the culinary in 1984. And I might add that I was the only Black student in my class at that point. When I got there, actually, it was interesting because I was shown to my dorm room, and when I went into the room, there was nobody there. But I took a look around, and there was a large tube of Colgate toothpaste and a thing of baby oil, and right away I knew that I was paired with another Black woman.
Wow.
Which is interesting because there were not many of us.
Right.
After the culinary, I worked for Canteen Corporation at the Metropolitan Opera House. Mm. And then I worked for the Lavanos family, and they own Oceana. They own about 7-8 independent restaurants now.
That was here in New York City?
Right, here in New York City, in Westchester, actually. I worked for them in Westchester.
Okay.
I have a lot of New York City restaurants. When I left them, their corporation, I was at the point where I didn't want to work for anybody anymore, because I quickly understood that I was giving the fruits of my labor to someone else and I wasn't being compensated myself. And in our industry, one of the easiest ways to do that is to go into catering.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't need, you don't need the capital that you would if you were going to open a freestanding restaurant or into a franchise.
Okay, so you see, you got me all excited. I'm sitting up in my chair, right? Let's unpack a little bit about this Canteen experience. So that was corporate, because many of my listeners know that there's so many lanes. That's a wonderful thing about the restaurant and food service industry. There's a corporate lane, which would be contract feeding. There's a catering lane, there's an independent restaurant lane, and then you obviously have multi-unit chain operations. So 1985, right? You're a Black female chef working in a corporate American institution. Let's unpack that a little bit. Let's dive a little deeper. Like, what was your experience?
I have stories.
I mean, we only got 35, 40 minutes, but I mean, I just like, tell me, like, was the executive chef Black? Wasn't Black? Was he female?
No, so the executive chef of this unit,
yes,
he actually was a former instructor at the CIA.
Okay.
Who was fired for all kinds of different reasons. He was from Holland, I think. He was Dutch, from Amsterdam. And I was the only Black female in the kitchen. Maybe the only female, if I can't really remember, but I might have been the only female. And some of the experiences that I had working for him, God. Okay, so let me start. I'd be working the line, and he was a screamer. He was a drinker and a screamer, and he was always taking me to Atlantic City. This is him being the aboye, and this was his conversation across the line. I found out about circle of beds with mirrors on top. Yeah.
It's a theme that in previous podcasts, previous shows, we all worked for people, like when and where as a Black individual can you drink on the job and still be the number one person and still hold your job, and it's acceptable, and you're not fired. Yet this is the fifth or sixth story that I've heard that, we were either not given opportunities for these executive chef positions or titles, even sous chefs, but yet the leaders of these organizations had multiple flaws and it was acceptable.
Absolutely. Total lack of professionalism. We would work late into the night. We had two kitchens, a prep kitchen and the kitchen where we staged from. Mm-hmm. Sometimes would go up there to take the product back, and my chef would be walking around in his underpants.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it was 1980s, and I think he thought that was acceptable.
Yeah.
He would.
It was white privilege, right?
White privilege. Yeah. And I think there was all kinds of things going on there. Right. I was the Black girl.
Right.
If things weren't coming out fast enough, he would come back there and he would start to throw hot pans right at me across to the dishwasher. But I would just walk away and give him his space, let him do his thing.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah, that was an interesting experience, I have to say.
So clearly, then you moved into the
independent restaurant
world. All right, let's talk a little bit about that and your experience.
So, I worked for an independent restaurant owned by a family. They've become big restaurant family, and the one story that sticks with me I worked there for years. And at some point, I requested my time off. Mm-hmm. I thought I was entitled to 2 weeks off with pay.
Okay.
And the owner said to me, no, I'll give you 1 week with pay. Now, what I knew was that there was a manager, a white manager, that had come on to the restaurant after I started to work. And he was getting 2 weeks with pay. And so I said to him, I said, you know what? Keep your 1 week with pay. I'm taking 2 weeks off. Pay me.
Right.
And he paid me for those 2 weeks.
Okay.
And, you know, that is because I knew my worth and because I was willing to stand up to my boss, so to speak.
What was your title at that point? Were you the executive chef?
No, I wasn't. I was not the, I became the executive chef eventually. At that point, I mean, Jason, this is just so long ago. You know, I'm old now. I might have been the sous chef, or I may have just worked on the line at that point.
Gotcha.
But I knew my value because I was the fish butcher, I was the meat butcher, I was working the line, I was covering for the pastry chef.
And was probably working 6-7 days a week?
No, I probably was working 5 by then.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, those are just, that's just one story.
Right.
From
then you get to a point where you decide that, you know, you don't want to work for anyone else.
Right. I mean, having said that, I'm going to say that they gave me, and I just think I was lucky. I was lucky to work with decent people.
Right.
And, you know, that's one story of a whole story, because they also gave me a lot of opportunity, right? And that I was able to take and to leverage it going forward. Right. So it wasn't all bad.
But you were talented, you know what I mean? And you had the work ethic. You know, let's not sugarcoat that. I mean, you brought added value to an organization that needed someone who could wear multiple hats, like you said, fish butchery, meat butchery, pastries, line cook, you know, saute cook, all those different positions. So, you know, this.
Yes, but eventually you realize that, wait a minute, there's no profit sharing here for me. There are no retirement benefits. What am I doing here?
No equity.
And I think because, and you know, I ascended all the way to executive chef in one of their restaurants, and I worked there for a while. But, you know, then eventually when I left, as I said, I decided I needed to do something for myself. And how that went is that I interviewed at many restaurants when I decided this was it. Eventually, somebody offered me the job as the executive chef. In those, I don't know how it's done now because I'm out of restaurants, but you had to go in and you had to, you know, do the whole cook for the day thing. And somebody offered me a job as their executive chef. And I said, okay, let me think about it. And I called them the next day and I said, sorry, no. And the owner said to me, why did you waste my time? He was angry that I had gone through this whole process. I actually had the nerve to tell him I did not want this position. But what that did, that made me think, you know, I went after this and now you're giving it to me. I don't want it. Why? And I really did not want to work in that atmosphere anymore. And so I decided, okay, bills have to be paid. And, you know, I went to the Culinary Institute's job listing, and there was a part-time job that offered full benefits. And I said, this is great. I'm going to take this job until I get my operation on track.
That's right.
And that was sort of my exit out of independent restaurants.
Got you. So talk to me about, so now you're segueing over into the entrepreneur side. Did you have access to capital? Did you get a bank loan? Did you borrow it from friends and family? Did you have savings? Like, how did you fund your loan?
Well, I had enough savings
Okay.
to go forward. I chose catering. And again, with catering, you don't have that big, you don't need that big chunk of capital that you would need if you were going to set up an independent restaurant or buy into a franchise. What you need are a couple of clients to give you half of your before you cater their party. So what I actually did, I started to work for caterers because this was something new to me, and this is what people don't realize, that there are so many aspects to food service. Not that you are a restaurant chef means that you can be a catering chef, or that you can be an institutional chef. They're different things. And if you're going to do one and do it well, you need to prepare yourself. So what I started to do, I started on the weekends, I would go work for caterers around New York City just to see how things were done, you know, and just to learn. And so I did that for a long time as I started to build my business. You know, and eventually I was able to not do that anymore because you build a clientele, and now you have your own thing going.
Got you. Yeah. No, absolutely. Didn't we do some parties together? We did a wedding together, a couple of weddings. We
did a couple of events together.
I don't know if those are your events or my events. I think I might have hired you for a couple of my catering weddings, and I think I worked with you on a couple of yours as well. Do you?
It's been a long time.
I know. I don't remember, but I do remember setting up. It was like an outdoor venue park, and it was a wedding. I remember.
Really? That one I don't remember. The one I remember, we did something for Carva, Federal Savings Bank on 125th Street.
Yeah. We did a couple of things. We did that grand opening, actually.
Exactly.
The grand opening when Carver moved from 75 125th to, I think, 125.
Right.
Yeah. Shout out to Carver Bank.
That's right. Black-owned bank.
So yeah, we bought all the china for them. Yeah, we go back. All right. So now, tell me a little bit about, you segued over into education. All right.
So
seems like you're passionate about teaching.
Education is really my passion.
Got it.
And I tell people, even when I was an executive chef in a restaurant, I was teaching. And I did my best to, to be inclusive, but I made sure that I had a core of young Black chefs. As you know, on my line, it was Matt, it was Ian, I'm not sure if Teddy ever worked for me, but and what I did, I taught.
Yeah.
To me, that's why you're here. It's part of standing on each other's shoulders. Somebody got me here, and it's my duty to keep that going. So, I actually, right out of high school, I was teaching food and nutrition. So teaching has been with me for a really long time. This semester, if it were not for COVID, would be my 41st consecutive semester teaching for CUNY. So I've taught at New York City College of Technology.
Yeah, we gotta get the audience claps in there. 41 consecutive semesters. How many years is that?
It's about 20 years. And,
And just for my listeners, just so you know, she talked about, we got to give a shout out to Ian Bartley and Teddy Osorio. We all bowed down to Jackie, just so you know, like anybody, Matt Rivers, J.P. Wallace, Teddy Osorio, Ian Bartley, Ruby Demesh, anybody that came out of the Culinary Institute of America in the 80s, we always bowed down to Jackie because she was the baddest of the bad. Continue, please.
Maybe that's because I was just a little older.
Nah, you was thorough. You were very thorough.
Yeah. So so I've got some good teaching stories from those 20 years in the hospitality management department at CUNY. I teach their first culinary class focused on the fundamentals of French cuisine. We start on how to hold your knife and knife cuts and sauces and soups and it's always really gratifying that when I'm done, I could see my students turn, from not because most of them come in, oh, we want to be managers, we want to be front of the house managers, we want to do this. They're not really interested, but this is part of their core curriculum. They have to take it. And it is always lovely to see the appreciation and the wide-eyed wonder, after you've exposed them to certain things. I tell them I teach them life skills because you can take this with you your whole life. I will also always remember early in my teaching career, a black girl, came into my classroom and she said, "Are you the professor?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Wow, I've never seen a black woman professor here."
Wow.
That story
Wow.
told me the importance of my being there.
Absolutely.
I do believe, people need role models. They need to see themselves in places where they're not normally seen in order to understand that I can achieve this.
Absolutely. Are there any other black instructors?
There are other black instructors now. I am not sure. They are. But this was way,
19, 20 years ago.
But there are other black instructors now. And we're talking about a heavy minority bent student population. Yeah.
Because we just have Roshara, which is the first female black instructor at the Culinary Institute of America. She just started last week, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations to her.
Yeah. We're going to have Roshara on the show soon. So, and you and I spoke about possibly getting you up at the CIA. I sit on the diversity board up at the Culinary Institute of America, and our job is to, they're taking a very active role in trying to recruit black chefs, both male and female chefs out there, up to Hyde Park, New York. Again,
I think when I was at the culinary, there were no black chefs.
None.
Yeah. I can remember.
Yep. No. And I think for many years there was one, Chef Coppage, who was a baker.
Ah.
Yep. And then Chef Johnson came a little later. But yeah, up into, but still that's not enough. You know what I mean? That's, we need to see more black chefs, male and female, on television, Food Network, as well as around the country at different culinary schools and even restaurants, high-end restaurants.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't look at the Food Network anymore. I'm sort of saddened by them. So
let's talk about that. Food Network I think it was founded around 1993. We know now the type of wealth that Rachel Ray and Bobby Flay and Guy and all the other food television celebrities, the wealth that they've accumulated.
Yeah, I think Rachel Ray, 80 million, Bobby Flay, maybe 30 million.
Yeah. I mean, you saw it. You saw when there was no Food Network,
Mhm.
and you were at the peak of your career during the creation and the explosion of the Food Network and celebrity chefs. Tell me your candid opinion. And I don't watch it either, so you and I are on the same page. I'm probably a little more radical than you in terms of outspokenness, but
Well,
yeah.
obviously, you know, the affiliation with the Food Network catapults you into a different category if you're white.
Mm-hmm.
And how many women do they have? Not many. When you look at the top earners, of chefs, it's practically all white men. There's Rachel Ray in there. There's maybe two or three women.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I always told people that I felt that I was a triple minority. I was a woman, I was Black, and I was from a developing country. So I had three hurdles to get by.
Mm-hmm.
This is America. We just had an election
Mm-hmm.
where 70 million people went out and voted for Donald Trump.
Hmm.
Wrap your brain around that.
Yeah.
To Black people, this was a referendum
Mm-hmm.
on racism,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is 2020. This is the year of Black Lives Matter. And 70 million people said, we don't care. We'll take 4 more years of this. America, keep your knee on their necks.
Preach.
Right?
Yep.
So my takeaway is a significant amount, and this is and you can't generalize, and this is not everybody, and this is, you know, this certainly is not racism, because I have many friends of different hues and different designations, but it tells you a bit about the mentality of nearly half of the population. Tells you about the country. It tells you a lot about the country that we live in. So, I mean, I'm not really getting off track here. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't know how much space there is for us, as Black chefs. When you look at the lineup, I mean, the most famous Black chef, everybody knows Marcus,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what Marcus's net worth is, don't you?
I do. And it's not even close.
It is nothing close.
The social distance between his money and their money is offensive.
His money is small change.
Yeah.
Your money.
Yeah.
Right? So, and Marcus is a male.
Right.
So I know I'm in trouble.
Right.
To take care of me.
Absolutely.
I'm in trouble.
Absolutely.
We have talent. Jeff, there's Jeff Henderson. What happened?
Yeah. No question.
Talented people.
Yeah.
But so we have to figure out how to do this for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because nobody's doing it for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And what do you, as we wind down here, let's talk about 2021 and beyond. When you and I founded the Alliance, you know, one of the reasons and the mission of that, the formation of that, was to give greater exposure to
Right.
Black chefs. Food and Wine wasn't really talking about us or covering us. Gourmet was not talking about us or covering us. James Beard wasn't. But now here we are, 30 years later, and the numbers are still unacceptable.
Right.
What do we do going forward, Chef? How do we fight this fight smarter and better so that we can narrow the gap? Or should we just like, all right, let the white people do their thing and we got to do our thing, like.
I always believe that the path to most things is through education.
Okay.
You have to let people know how you feel. Maybe, and I say this tongue in cheek, maybe the Food Network doesn't realize, the enormity of this.
Right.
Maybe somebody ought to bring it to their attention in a hard way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I have chosen through my teaching to set an example and to try and nurture my students, so at least they are prepared for success. Because I think that's important.
Yeah. So education, more people like you, look like them, like the student body, representing that, and mentoring. I think mentoring and teaching is a huge component of us in that gap and trying to overcome some of these inequalities within the systemic part of America.
Inequality is baked into the American pie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so much structural racism, whether it's economic, whether it's through the economic structure of the country, where Blacks are not allowed the same, freedom when it comes to getting loans from banks and things like that. And I think there is a lack of understanding. I think maybe we have made some inroads this year. When you look at the crowds that are out there supporting the Black Lives Matter movement, I think these are people that understand the barriers that have been put up for Black people throughout the history of this country. How do we change that? I think, structurally you change it from inside. Maybe I should have gone to work at the Food Network, and
right.
So I think we have to think of getting into the structures in order to move our agenda forward.
I agree. Well, Chef, how can someone, are you still doing catering?
Yeah. Well, this is 2020. COVID hit us and there's no catering anymore. But yes.
Well, if people want to get in touch with you, how do people get in touch with you?
Well, the easiest way is through my phone number. It's on my website. I can give it to you. It's 646-734-2149.
Say that again, Chef.
Email me at Jackie@alwaysaccolades.com. That's Jackie, Jackie, at ALWAYSACCOLADES.com.
All right. Say that phone number again, one more time.
646-734-2149.
Okay. So listeners, you heard it live and direct from Chef Jacqueline Cholmondeley here on Hidden Figures podcast, Behind the Numbers with the Restaurant Scientist. Jackie, I want to thank you. It's been far too long since I've seen you and talked to you. But anytime we do is as if we just picked up the phone. We spoke yesterday.
Yeah. And I guess that's what friendship is about.
Yeah. And much respect and kudos and all the things that come with, I love you dearly as a friend. Respect
Same to you, Jason.
As a colleague.
Yes. It was lovely seeing you and speaking with you. And, I hope just a bit of what I said is helpful to somebody.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's why I picked this platform because, there's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be heard. And this is why I chose this platform to kind of come back, even though I went off the grid there for a few years. But we're coming back. And this is about advocacy for me. It's not really not about even making money. But there's work to be done. And I'm
a lot of it.
So I want to end again by thanking my sponsors, Cornerstone Business Labs, Cornerstone Production, and Cornerstone Media. Until we meet again, thank you. Power to the people. That beat is hard right there. That beat is hard, Jackie.